Appreciate very much the opportunity to be with you tonight. I'll apologize up front for my voice. I've been in Asia and just got back here a few days ago. I always have an allergy attack, so my head is all stopped up, and I know it's irritating. Just think about what I'm saying and look at the pictures, and I think you'll enjoy it. I'm sponsored by the church in Double Springs, Alabama, to do mission work across the world, and I'll go a little bit further with that in just a second. But as was read in Matthew 28, and of course that's recorded in other places, and then we see it played out in the book of Acts. The gospel is to be taken to all the world by us. That's our job as the Lord's church. There's between 7 and 8 billion people across the world today, and most of them have never heard the gospel. About 1 million people die each week who've never heard one single lesson in all of their life, one time to be able to hear the truth. They've never had that. And so it's a massive job that we have before us, and that's what our work is all about. I've been in this for 40 years, one way or another, full-time for the last 26 years. And most of our work is in Asia, and I'll talk about some of the countries in a few minutes. When so many need to hear, so many millions and even billions need to hear. As a missionary, we need to know how to reach lots of people. There are not many of us. And so we use mass evangelism, mass communications, radio, television, literature, the internet. We broadcast from many, many places. We use the most powerful radio stations in the world to do our broadcasting. And we reach 3/4 of the world with something. We're not saturating anywhere, but we get something to about 3/4 of the world's areas where people live. We hear from about 300,000 people a year, and that gives us an opportunity to start to study with people. So we send literature to them first, and we have scattered across the world now 31 partners with us. I started this about 40 years ago, and I had one partner in one country when I first started, and the work grew a little bit, and I had another co-worker in this place and another one in this place, and they help us with follow-up. These men are usually supported partially by us, but they're the only ones we support. We don't support local preachers when we get work started. We form about 50 congregations a year, and we just can't do that, so our model has to do something different. But we send literature that results in people eventually saying, I've got to talk to you. I want to see you. So we do hundreds and hundreds of campaigns and Bible seminars and gospel meetings a year. And we baptize about 3,000 to 4,000 people a year. Our goal is 300 a month. Now, our overall goal is not baptisms. I mean, that's ultimately what you want to happen. But we're trying to teach as many people as we can. We measure our success in how many people can hear the gospel, because God gives the increase. And we don't know. We work in some countries where we have very few who obey. A lot here, but they don't obey. And then we have some where the number is very, very high. But anyway, that's the second step in our program. And the third step is to bring from those who have been baptized about 20% into our Bible schools. We've formed 12 little 2-year schools. They're called Bible colleges. And in foreign countries, that carries a different connotation. And so it's important. And we train preachers and teachers and leaders to go back into the growth areas where congregations have formed. And we train about 500 to 600 people a year in our work. And when I say I direct this work. I've been doing this for many, many years, and we have 3 sons who have grown up in this work, and they all 3 work with me. 2 of them are Bible professors at Heritage Christian University in Florence, Alabama, as well as working with me, and then one that has a business, and he takes time off from his business and travels with me. And then there's a couple of elders at Double Springs who travel with us 4 or 5 times a year and help us in the mission field. So that's our immediate team of, there's altogether about 12 or 13 of us. And then, of course, we have those 31 follow-up groups across the world and many, many other volunteers who help us in different ways. This is the reach of our mass media programs. You can see the dots scattered across the globe are the broadcast points, and then the circles represent the range of the programs. The most emphasis is over on the right side, on the Asian side, but we do have some work in Africa and some work in Latin America. We broadcast in Spanish from Miami, Florida on using a Pan American broadcasting tower. And it reaches North America too. We actually get some responses from North America, but that's not a target for us, although we'll follow up when we do have responses. 26 years ago, I had a chance to go into Myanmar, Burma. That country had been closed almost since it was formed, right after World War II. And they started opening up in the mid-90s. And we knew there were a handful of members of the church there that had been taught through different ways from a distance. And so I went to Rangoon, Burma in 1996, and I got in touch with the members of the church that I knew. There were 6 of them in that country of about 50-something million people. And we sat down, and they knew the army, which ran the country, was going to start letting people come in. And they said, we know that we have an opportunity now to spread the gospel to this nation, which very, very few people have ever heard. And we want to work together. And so we started. And they said, you can't go out and knock on people's doors. You can't have gospel meetings in public places. They went through all the things you couldn't do, but they said, we can run a school here. The government will allow you to have a Bible college, and the Bible is taught as sacred literature. So we formed Myanmar Bible College, and we brought people from all over the country. My key partner had been a professor at Rangoon University, and he knew former students everywhere, and we brought them in. And you can see those stars; those are major operating points for our work today. We have formed over 1,000 congregations in that country since 1996, and we have those schools, 5 schools. It's just been an unbelievable work. It's been so enjoyable. The man who helped me get it started with the school is sitting down on the left there with the striped cover over him. I can't think of the name of that piece of a garment, but anyway, his name is Joe Sain, and his son is Amos, and they're from the middle of the country, the Magway and Bago divisions of the country. Those are really jungle areas, but he was at Rangoon University and just an invaluable worker. That's his son, Amos. They worked that hard region of the country, even today. Burma lost its freedom. They got it in 2015, and then they lost it in 2020. The military took back over. And Amos was kind of like a mayor in one of those cities in the middle of the country, and that particular tribal area resisted the government. So he's in hiding right now. Very good preacher. He's still baptizing people, but that's what life looks like on the interior of Burma. I made a lot of trips there. I've been in this room right here. Probably took that picture. And my sons have helped me there as well. And there's Amos baptizing people. His dad's 86 years old. His wife died during COVID, and we're counting on Amos to lead into the future with this work. I also go all the way north to the borders with Tibet, a place called Patao, very remote Himalayan mountain areas, and it's just really amazing to see people who have never had any contact with Christianity. One of the people that really helped me launch the work in a big way, in addition to Brother Joe Sain, is a man named Tin Lin. And he was from Calais, up in the northwest part of the country. And he and his wife were the members of the church in Calais. And that's his home congregation today. About 400 members in that congregation, and there's 19 other congregations in Calais, plus probably 500 congregations in the region of the Sagaing and Chin states where they're from. Just a phenomenal motivator, teacher, preacher, was just a real fantastic partner in the work. And unfortunately, we lost him last year to COVID, a really hard casualty in our work. But we've got others that will pick up, we think, and go on. Philip's from that area. He's the president of Memoir Bible College, our biggest school, and that's his family. He's about 40 years old. And when they shut down in Burma, they shut down hard. And they couldn't travel, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't leave their homes practically. Philip started using the school building and just taking a few children from the community to do vacation Bible school. They'd never done that. But these are some pictures from that. And that's his son and all these pictures that couldn't make it through the 12-hour-a-day classes. And so we put that in. He was dedicated to be there, but he just couldn't hold up. Students there, a baptistry close to the building. We're seeing new buildings all over the country. First, everyone made it homes. We're seeing buildings being built, and that building will house their Bibles and equipment and things like that. You can't meet. There's not enough room for a group to meet in there. They meet outside. They'll put up tents and meet there. This is one of the poorest places I've ever worked anywhere in the world. They still know their tribes, and there's about 15 major tribes, and these are women in traditional dress for their tribe. These would be a show people, and they're there for the opening of that new building. That's in the Irrawaddy River, where most baptisms occur, because there's many little rivulets of that river as it goes toward the coast, and that's Philip baptizing there. Probably the biggest thing we've ever done, though, is to go from Burma into China. Our preachers didn't stop when they reached the Chinese border as they were spreading the gospel in Burma, and there's a 1,000-mile border with China. Border's porous. The communities that are on the border, part of them are in China and part of them in Burma. They don't know who's who. And so they can go back and forth easily. And we started teaching Chinese men and women. And we had a couple of men come to our school in Rangoon. And it isn't long until we realized this is probably the greatest opportunity that we'll ever have. So we started pouring resources into this. This is our biggest project today. We formed a Bible school just for training Chinese preachers. It's called Uzana Bible College, and that's the building for it there. And it's on the Burma side because we can bring them over from Burma. China is really locked down right now, but they can sneak across the border. And this man runs that program. His name is Jay Ati. And I could tell you a story about how he was reached, but we don't have time. But anyway, he's a great worker. His family helps him. Nancy's his wife, 2 children. They're college students. Between them, they speak 12 languages. They're one of the most talented, intelligent groups of people I've ever worked with. And they lead the China Project. And that's literature. It's a publication called Voice of Truth International, published in Winona, Mississippi by Choate Publications, or World Evangelism Publications. And we use that all over the world. We give it to local people to translate, and that's what they do. They translate it into their language, and then it's printed 5,000 every 3 months, and it goes into China to support the Chinese work. 100 and something congregations in China now, probably close to 75, 80 preachers, maybe even 100. We don't know for sure how many. It's just going well. Nepal. We had a call from a group that we work with in the Philippines, in Cebu, Philippines, a group of doctors there that do relief work in the Philippines after natural disasters. And they said, we are over in Nepal after a big earthquake here, helping out here, and we're done. And we think there's a great opportunity here near Kathmandu to keep on going. So we went over and met with them. And this is a mountain country, and we immediately formed Nepal Bible College because we had a lot of people who wanted to study. And we're in our 3rd year of Nepal Bible College. We graduated 12 of the first class. It's a 2-year program. And we kept classes going through COVID. We got another class about ready to graduate. And We did Zoom classes when they could meet, when they were allowed to travel and meet, they met outside if they couldn't go inside. And then that was in January. Joey, my second son, is there teaching class with the Pramod, Brother Pramod, who leads our project there. And that's Joey with Pramod and an American coworker in January. Joey's headed back over there in about a week to Nepal. In all of our schools, when we finish our school sessions, the teachers take the students out on campaign, and they're taught that if you're a preacher, you're an evangelist. You're to be reaching out with the gospel to the lost. And so they learn to do that when they're in school. And it's very, very effective. It's working everywhere. India is the oldest projects that we have. I base my work out of New Delhi and Bangalore, where the stars are. Our first trip back to India, you had to look like this when you entered the country on an airplane. I've made 2 trips since it opened up a year ago. And it's an interesting country. Delhi has almost 20 million people. And this is the way food is delivered to almost everybody in New Delhi, on carts, on the streets, every morning. Where I stay, I can hear the different vendors as they go down the street, and the people there, they know who the banana man is, and who's the cabbage man, and who's the broccoli man by their chant when they come through, and they buy their food fresh every day. That fascinates me to see a delivery system like that for food for almost 20 million people. These are pictures from my last trip. This young man is now our North India director of all of our projects. We have a school there, Delhi Bible School, and that's his family's name's Vinay David. And we do 2 television programs that reach all of the Hindi-speaking people of India. And Vinay's the primary teacher for that. And his uncle and his dad's on the right, and mother, they help with that as well. They've been involved for many, many years. And these are just pictures. One building in Delhi, the back behind there, good, strong congregation, new congregations forming. Delhi's really hard, and it's a slower work, but there's some really strong foundations there. South India, we're based out of Bangalore. We've started probably 2,000 congregations out of Bangalore with Brother P.R. Swami. He's in the middle with a white, I can't think of the name of the garment, sarong, I think it's called. But anyway, he leads that work. That's him there with me on the right. That was back in April. He's a medical doctor by training. He's 86 years old, never practiced medicine. And he was a high caste Hindu. So he understands Hinduism at the most fundamental level. And he's preached and baptized 65,000 people. And there's not been any meetings where he baptizes 1,000 at one time. As a matter of fact, the most we've ever had at one time is probably 50 or 60 people. He just does lots of meetings, and he really knows how to do it. These are just a few pictures. This is in the state of Andhra Pradesh, and we're all over India. We have radio and television in the whole country. Several follow-up teams. Vietnam, 10 years there, hard work. Officially, there's freedom of religion. Unofficially, they do everything in the world to try to stop you. We operate from Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City in the south and Hanoi in the north. We built a building through the pandemic for our Vietnam Bible College. Those are pictures of the buildings, 4 stories, not very wide on the front, but very deep. And this will be a powerful tool for us as we move forward. You have to hide for baptisms. If they catch you baptizing people, everybody goes to jail, gets punished. And so we try to be out of sight. So the baptistry for there at the school is up on the roof, the 4th floor roof. This man is our longtime partner there. He goes back to 1975, converted by an army surgeon who was a member of the church. He was a medic in the South Vietnamese Army. And he works with us today. And we have 2 or 3 others. And we work across the entire country. If you've served in Vietnam, you've heard of Da Nang and Vung Tau. We have congregations there, good congregations. I've visited all of them. We have a congregation in Hanoi. Bible classes there have to be in hotel rooms, and that's what men is doing there, and baptism in the ocean there. Phan Rang, good congregation there in South Vietnam. This young man is our young partner. We brought him to Florence, Alabama, get his master's degree in Bible. Hong An is his name, and that's his wife and little girl on their way home last year. They got quarantined, and after quarantine, he got dengue fever and nearly died. And we hang a lot of our hopes on his leadership in our work there. The Philippines, we focus on the middle of the country. There's more work needed in the Visayan area. So we have bases there, but our primary base is in Cebu. A secondary is Samar. We have our Philippine Institute of Biblical Studies in Samar Bible College. June Arcilia, former actor, movie person, works with us, has a Bible study center in the northern part of that region, does radio, good radio speaker. Edwin Enso, taught him. He was my first student when I taught there 25 years ago. He was a Pentecostal preacher. He baptizes 300 people a year. That's where his brother lives. And that's some of the food that we were about to eat. And I just said, cook it and don't tell me what it is, because I don't want to know. Samar Bible School, we doubled the capacity of that this year when we were there this summer. Edwin's on fire, doing great work. And these are just pictures from his program. He works with everybody, children, teenagers, has youth activities. He meets weekly with the police department in Barongan, where he lives. And he also teaches officers, military officers on their base there. It's called morality training. A program in Sri Lanka, a little island off the south coast of India, 2 bases, Jaffna in the north and the capital of Colombo in the south. This country is about to go under right now because of economic problems. The couple at the top are our primary partners, and that's a newer partner at the bottom there in that work. I was just here on the north side of the island of Borneo, the 5th largest island in the world. This is a Muslim territory, Malaysia, Indonesia, very difficult work. But in Kuching, where the star is, have a partner there that I've worked with for almost 30 years. And it's the business center. It's the Wall Street type place for that part of that country. And most of the money that's there is in the hands of Chinese business people who fled communist China years ago. And they're not Muslims, and they won't follow the Muslims' rules, but they got a lot of money. So the Muslims tolerate them. And we run advertisements in their newspapers like Wall Street Journal. We can run an ad that says free Bible course. And that's what we do. We send those papers go all over, and we get those Bible courses in. And we've started a lot of congregations through contacts and that. I was just at these places just last week, and that work is slow, but it's important and steady. We're growing our work in South America, targeting mostly the indigenous people. Most claim to be Catholic in South America, but a lot of the native indigenous people are not serious about Catholicism. There's a lot of opportunity there, and we're having a lot of growth. We were in Peru a few months ago. We work from Lima and also from Cusco. We do radio broadcasting from Cusco. One of the menu items is guinea pig. And we didn't have any guinea pig, but that's right off the menu there. This is a seminar with Mike Houts, Dr. Mike Houts on the right, who, if you ever want a really fantastic seminar on evidences and why to believe in God, he's it. He's a scientist with NASA, got 2 PhDs, but I mean, he is sharp as he can be. And he did a seminar down there. That's my youngest son on the left, and me teaching in small groups. And there's my Janet, my wife. And these are just pictures from across the travels we did in Peru. This is up in Cusco. We have a project in Brazil, and I could go through many, many other places. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? And how shall they preach unless they are sent? Over 100 congregations send us, support us. They help through Double Springs and send us to do what we do. And we're thankful for that. We're so blessed to be able to do that. And thank you for letting us come today and to tell you, and you'll pray for us. And we pray that it'll be encouraging to you. This is a video. Let's see, maybe, there we go.
Dili kita maaram kung walay Biblia, di kita maaram kung paano mataluwas ang tao. Kung walay Biblia, di kita maaram kung paano lipayon ng Diyos. Kung walay Biblia, di kita maaram kung paano ang tunay nga pagsimba. Amen? Makita ni mo mga kabuktuan, ang yan nga panahon, usa ka demonstration nga ginadako ang pagkaka-ignorante sa Biblia. Tungod handa mo nga kalain nila yung magsimba. Gananong rason, diri hira tunay nga gusto ni ginamit ako ikaw ang pagsubuhan ang aran sa bayan anak ng Espiritu Santo para sa siluan na mo magsulat. Congratulations, brother. Ito na kita, Ginoo. Diri, o bang? Oo. Ang tatay na, brother.
Father,
We thank thee for the night and for the pleasant morning light, for rest and food and lovely care.
Don't sound like us. Don't live like us. God loves them just as much as he does us. And they haven't heard. We help them hear. We help them obey if we possibly can. In Burma, when I first started there, I met Brother Tin Lin. I told you about his congregation up in Calais. And for 5 years, I couldn't go anywhere but Rangoon. And every year, Tin Lin would come to Rangoon and say, I'm baptizing a lot of people in Calais. And he says, come up there sometime. I want you to come up and do some teaching up there. We need some of the things that you could do. I'd go to the military every year and ask for permission to go, and they'd turn me down. Finally, one year I went down to their place and put my request in and came back and said, yes, you can go. Scared me to death. I had been turned down every year because it's kind of like going into the wild place. But anyway, I bought tickets, and my partner was with me from Double Springs, and we went up there. I arrived at this little rural airport. It was just a dirt airstrip. Flew up on a military plane, an old World War II plane. Got on that plane. The front were Buddhist priests burning incense, and then there were military officers, and then they put us and the chickens and the goats in the back. And we hopped all night long to get to this place. Landed. They just threw our luggage out the back of the plane. You had to go back and pick it up. And I started walking down this barbed wire pathway, line pathway to go into the terminal, which is just a tin hut. And the soldiers stopped me, and they took my luggage away from me. They took everything away from me till they got to my passport, and they wanted my passport. And I said, I can't let you have my passport. You can have it, but I got to go with it. I used to work for the State Department, so I knew some of that. And so they took me into a holding area, me and my partner, and they did a harsh interrogation. They shoved automatic weapons up under our chin and held our heads up with them and screamed and yelled at us. And we couldn't understand why, because they had given me permission to go up there. And finally, there was a breakthrough in communication. They had broken English and couldn't understand me, and I couldn't understand them. And we finally got through, and I should have had a military appointed guide with me, and I didn't. And I said, I don't need a guide. I said, that man standing over there, and you could see through the barbed wire outside the airport, Tin Lin was standing there. Said, he's my guide. And so they went and brought him in there. And they screamed at him and threatened him and did everything in the world they could do. And he stood there and answered their questions. And finally, they brought documents in, and he signed a few documents. And we got to a certain point, and he looked at me and he said, brother, we're about to be able to go. So we did. We got out of there. They had an old truck waiting for us, and we got in the back of the truck, and he said, we don't have time to go to the hotel. I know you'd like to go to the bathroom and do some other things. We got to get to the camp. He'd set up a camp on the outside of town. There were about 700 people from 4 or 5 countries that border with Burma that were there for this special event. And I had 5 days to preach the gospel. I taught from daylight until about 8 o'clock every night for 5 days. That's all the military would give us. And but on our way out there, I said, Brother Tin Lin, what did you sign? And he said, oh, it's not important. And I said, when we have to give our signature, it usually is important. I figured he had to pay some kind of penalty or permit or something, and I knew you wouldn't have the money to do it. And he said, brother, I really would rather not tell you, but I said, well, tell me. He said, the military is afraid of you. You're an American, and we have strict laws here. They have strict laws and rules. And they said, he said, we're going to break the rules. You're going to break the rules. And they don't want to arrest you and punish you for breaking rules. And so I signed documents saying that if you break rules, I'll take your punishment. I'll take your punishment. And he said, now, brother, he said, we're going to baptize people, and we're going to baptize some Buddhist people, and that calls for the death penalty. And he said, so when we get through this week and you go back to Rangoon, I've got to go to jail and die for what we do. So let's make it count. Let's make it count. We talked from daylight every morning until we couldn't stand up any longer, went to our hotel and used candlelight to study. I didn't have half enough material prepared. I didn't expect that. We had a lot of baptisms. And when I boarded that old worn out military plane to fly back to Rangoon, I watched them put chains on Tin Lin and lead him away. And I didn't know what happened to him for almost a year. We couldn't get any information, but he was sentenced to death and put with all the other political and religious prisoners for a mass execution. And his execution was scheduled about a year later. I went to Rangoon to be there. And when that day came, there was an uprising of Buddhist priests all over the country. I mean, massive protests. And they stopped the execution of everyone, including the Christians. And that happened twice. And Tin Lin lived until last summer and died of COVID. But in between those times, he helped us spread the gospel to masses and form all of those hundreds of congregations. And from his work, we have so many preachers, and those preachers that first started going over into China, he helped train them. What a hero, just what a man of faith. And I often think, and of course it hurt when we were talking to his wife when he died. And I think about the faith of people there. I was trying to teach one of those days, and my translator, I had another man who translated, and he stopped me and he said, "Brother, get to the point." He said, "We're not primarily Buddhists here. We believe in God, and we've heard of Jesus and the church, but we don't know what to do. We've never had a Bible. We've never had a Bible. We've been waiting for you for 40 years. Tell us what to do to obey God, to obey God." And I think about us here in this land of plenty and all we have. And I think about them, and I worry about when we stand before God someday, because we'll be standing there waiting to see God with some of them who gave their lives and who did what they did, what Jesus told us to do: seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, because one soul is worth more than all the world. Let's do our best. Let's do our best to help as many people get to heaven and to not be a follower of the prince of this world, Satan. Thank you very much.